listening to LOA Recon with the Good Vibe Coach Jeanette Ma, where we dissect the ins and outs and the art and science of conscious creation, all intended to amp up your manifesting game. Let's have some fun together. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I don't know what it is about me pulling out the microphone to record an episode, but I think the dogs think that's their cue to start roughhousing. So I apologize for any noise in the background. Everything's under control, even if it doesn't sound like it. But I wanted to record a new episode today because I opened up my inbox and found some new reviews on the podcast. Thank you so much for those who post those. So we'll consider today's episode brought to you by Electrofan07, who writes, Jeanette speaks clearly and with conviction. The podcasts are very uplifting and have a lot of great insight and tips for law of attraction. Highly recommend. Thank you, Electrofan. So yeah, I did have something on my mind that I've been wanting to talk about. I posted about this subject recently about exhaling money in. And I told the story about how I spoke at a conference years and years and years ago. This was a long time ago. And they had a lot of cool breakout sessions on a variety of different subjects. And one of the ones that I sat in was super cool. I didn't expect it to be. I really didn't expect it to be, but it was. It was on how to breathe properly. I can't remember the exact title of it. But you would think that, look, we don't need instructions on how to breathe properly. That's like, it happens automatically. But I remember years ago, Dr. Andrew, I want to say Weil, is that his name? W-E-I-L? He's like known as the godfather of holistic health. He was asked once upon a time, what's the one single thing that people could do to improve their health? And his answer was, breathe more deeply, is get more oxygen into the body, because most of us are shallow breathers and that's no good. And we just have a tremendous amount of benefits from breathing more deeply. And I was kind of surprised at that because, you know, we always hear all sorts of other things that are more important. But he said, if you're only going to pay attention to one thing, pay attention to that. Okay, that stuck in my head. Saw this on the breakout session. And so I attended this lecture on how to breathe properly. And I was no stranger to how to properly breathe. In fact, you probably aren't either. We all know. You're supposed to, you're supposed to lay on your back and put your hand on your belly and make sure that your belly is rising. You know, you don't want to just breathe from your chest. You want to breathe from your belly. And also you're supposed to do things like breathe through your nose and out your mouth. And would we also hear about the count? You know how you're supposed to have breathe into a count of 4 and hold for a count of whatever, and then exhale for a count of, and that's supposed to be the longest one. The exhale is supposed to be the longest. Anyway, it wasn't any of that. That's not what they talked about at all. In fact, all I remember from this lecture was one tip. It was to make sure you're doing a proper exhale, and the rest takes care of itself. If you are just focused on getting all the air out, that's all you have to pay attention to in order to be a good breather. And sure enough, it's true. When you do a really good exhale, and that might include engaging abdomens to squeeze all the air out of those lungs. When you do that, the body does take care of the rest. You get a nice, strong inhale on the heels of a proper exhale. I loved that. Loved how easy it was. And I was thinking recently how, in talking with clients who were kind of freaked out about how they're spending a lot of money and it was making them nervous, and I was thinking, you know, this is actually really similar to what I learned about breathing, which is that when you do a proper exhale, the inhale takes care of itself. We know from law of attraction the way that every desire starts with contrast. And if you let that fuel your party, instead, if you don't get hung up in it, you just let that be the first step, then life can't help but get better. So when we're spending a lot of money, if we can treat that as just the step one moment that it is, that it's what inspires the desire for more, and then we let more come in instead of trying to hang on to what we've got, or worrying that, more won't come, or all the ridiculous routines we engage that vibrationally block more money from coming in. If we just didn't do that, the money automatically flows in. So I was sharing this idea that letting the money in can be as simple as just doing a proper exhale, the same way it is to be a proper breather. So I wrote up that post, And a lot of people, like on Facebook, were making comments like, oh, well, that's good then, because, I just spent a big amount of money, so I guess I'm doing it right. No, that doesn't. Just because you're spending a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean we're doing it right. Because if you spend a lot of money with fear or with lack or with an expectation that now you have less, that is blocking. You can't let it in when you're engaging that stuff. And we know that stuff. We know how this works energetically. That if we're sending money out, but we're doing that with fear or angst or resentment or worry or any sense of lack, that's not going to serve us very well. Instead, we want to be able to do it with confidence and with trust, with a sense of abundance and plenty. That's when it serves us. In fact, it's like the same way when you're, running up the stairs or across the parking lot in the rain, or maybe you get your exercise in an actual gym. But when you're breathing hard, you're not worried that you're using up too much air. You're not concerned that there's going to be less for you because of this episode of breathing hard, right? You know there's plenty more whenever you need it. Whatever you need, it's right there for you. If we could just engage that same line of thinking, that same point of focus when it came to our money, then it really would be as easy as letting those exhales inspire even more abundant inhales. When you can spend money with a vibration like that, that's when, it brings a lot of peace, not just peace of mind, and not just being able to release any tension or worry that a lot of people carry about big expenditures, but it's also what calls forth more money. Remember how what was that movie? I want to say, dang it. The Firm. It was The Firm many, many years ago. I might be remembering this wrong. Forgive me if I'm misquoting, if I've got the wrong movie or the wrong book. But I recall the theme of that movie was, when you get a new lawyer at the firm, the first thing you do is you load them up with an expensive car payment and a big mortgage payment so that they have incentive to make a lot of money. So they will put in proper hours at work for you. I don't know if that was a real life practice or if that just happens in the movie, but what I like about that is that it's along those same lines, that spending the money is what inspires us to let more in. So rather than trying to spend less, we could let it be just like having a proper exhale in order to be a good breather. I don't know. I like that idea. If you get any inspiration from it, or if it helps you turn around any of your negative money thoughts, then I think that'll serve you too. Thanks for listening, and happy manifesting, everyone.